artists, and we are thrilled to welcome her back and to ask her to do a quick or as long as she'd like, really, presentation for us on lace making. Fiona was a very popular woman here for a couple of days in Bryn Mawr, and we are thrilled to have her back. Also on the call today, we have Pauline Garavan, who did a wonderful presentation for us last week, and Pauline was one of our Straight Out of Ireland artists as well. Absolutely wonderful. So thank you all, and I'm going to kick it over to Fiona.
Okay, thank you everybody. It's a pleasure to be here this evening in Ireland, afternoon in Philadelphia, I know. And thank you so much for inviting me to speak. And thank you to everybody who's tuning in today. So I'm just going to pull up my presentation on the screen here, and hopefully there won't be any technical issues. And I'll just open the full screen for that. Okay, so can everybody see that if I just get a thumbs up? Yeah, super. Okay, so without any further delay, I'm just going to get stuck in and start my presentation on using Irish lace in my contemporary art practice. So when I start to talk about the beginning of my journey in lace, I always start at the very beginning, which was in Kenmare. And at the year 2012, I was studying textile design at the National College of Art in Dublin. And I became interested in lace making, and I started to research places that I could learn how to make lace. And I came across the Kenmare Lace and Design Centre in County Kerry. So I wrote to Nora Finnegan, who was the owner of the centre, and I asked her, would you be interested in teaching me how to make lace? And thankfully for me, she agreed. So I moved down to Kenmare, and I spent 4 months at the Lace Centre learning how to make lace, and both Nora and her daughter Emer was teaching me how to make handmade lace. So while I was there, I focused on 3 different styles of Irish lace. I learned how to make bobbin lace, needlepoint lace, and I learned how to make Carrick-Macross lace. And in Kenmare, Kenmare has its own regional style of lace called Kenmare lace, and it's a needlepoint lace, and of course needlepoint is made all over Ireland. If you look to the screen on the left-hand side, we see a kind of a bird's eye view of a lace making pillow, and that's bobbin lace. And bobbin lace is made by winding lots of different threads around wooden bobbins, and all of the bobbins are hung on a pattern on a foam pillow, and the bobbins are crisscrossed back and forth, and the stitches are held in place with pins. So we can see the bird's eye view of the pillow on the left of the screen. Over on the right, on the top right, we have a Kenmare needlepoint sampler. Needlepoint lace is made with just using a needle and thread, and it's made on a temporary support backing fabric. So if you look at the image on the top right, you can see green in the background, and that's a green fabric that the lace is made on. When the lace stitching is completely finished, the lace is then removed from the temporary support fabric. To begin needle lace, you place the pattern on the green fabric, and then you outline the lace with a thicker thread. And once you've done the outline of your pattern or design, you can then start to fill in the open spaces with lots of different styles of decorative stitches. So if you look at the sampler there, there's 9 different squares, and in each of those squares, there is a different needlepoint lace stitch. And really, when you're learning how to make lace, this is how everybody starts. They start in little squares. And once you've kind of mastered how to do the stitch within a square, you can then move on and develop your own designs. Below the needlepoint sampler is a piece of Carrick-Macross lace. And Carrick-Macross lace is an applique style of lace. So it's made by tacking organdy and tulle, which is a netting, together, and this is placed over a pattern, and the pattern then is outlined, it's stitched into place using a separate needle and thread. And once the outline has been done, once the outline of your design has been done, you can then cut away the organdy that's no longer needed, and you can stitch into the netting that's exposed. So if you look at the Carrick-Macross lace sample, in the center, you'll see a large piece of netting, and that's from where I cut the organdy. I cut the organdy away from that area. And of course, then around the shamrock areas of that sample, you'll see more decorative stitching. And all of that stitching is done with a separate needle and thread. So even though lace, when finished, might have similar appearances, they're all made in very, very different ways. So following my internship in Kenmare, after 4 months of learning 3 different styles of lace, I moved back to Dublin and I finished my degree at the National College of Art, and I did a degree in textile design, but I specialised in handmade lace. And part of my degree show was this piece that you're looking at on the screen. It's called Divisions. And it's made using Kenmare needlepoint lace, which has been sandwiched in between 2 pieces of hand-cut card, which was later painted, hand-painted. So this piece is based on some maps I discovered of a small area of farmland where my father grew up and where my nana lived all of her life. This piece that year, following my degree, I entered it into the RDS craft competition, and I was lucky enough that year to win the RDS graduate prize. So that was a real boost for me just as I finished college and just as at the beginning of my career. I decided at that point, I was really obsessed, I think, with the lace making at this point. I'd been doing it for a little over a year and a half, and I really, really loved it. And I wanted to explore it further and push it as far as I possibly could. So I moved down to the Beara Peninsula, down to West Cork. Now, where I learned how to make lace in Kenmare is also on the Beara Peninsula. It's just across the county border. So I wasn't too far from where I learned how to make lace to begin with. And I moved down to West Cork and I set up a small lace studio in the house that I was living in. And over the next 2 years, between say 2014 and 2016, I spent my time putting together 4 different lace collections. And I was really interested in developing my own style of lace. I didn't really want to take traditional patterns and repeat them again. I wanted to use my own drawings and my own skills and make my own patterns. And I suppose in a previous life, before I started making lace, I was actually a painter, and I had studied fine art at Crawford College in Cork, and I had spent about 10 years painting and exhibiting work. So when I learned how to make lace, what I wanted to do was take those skills and combine it with my skills as a painter and my interest in painting. So one way I figured out how I could do that was by combining 2 different styles of Irish lace. And if you look at the screen, there's 2 samples here, one from my farmyard collection and one from my woodland collection. So the image on the left is called Fresh Eggs, and it's of a little goose. And the little goose itself is made using needle lace, and the background is made using Carrick-Macross lace. And I realized at this point, if I combined those 2 styles of lace, it would allow me to create much bigger compositions and really explore my interest in landscape. On the right on the screen is a piece from my woodland collection. And my woodland collection was really exploring different types of native trees and flowers. So this is the little oak tree. And again, the oak tree is made from needle lace and the background is made using Carrick-Macross lace. So I think, you know, if I was to make that whole piece in needle lace, it would have taken months. I don't even know how long it would have taken, because needle lace is just so tiny and it's made entirely from a needle and thread. So by combining the 2 styles, it allowed me to push my own interest a little farther. So as well as the woodland and the farmland collection, I made a series of work called the Island collection. So the image on the left is one of the pieces from that collection, and this is the Skellig. And you may have heard of the Skellig because it has recently become quite famous because it was a scene in Star Wars. But before Luke Skywalker got there, there was actually a little commune of monks that built a monastery on the Skellig back, I think, in the 4th century. And it's a truly amazing place to visit. If anyone ever has the opportunity to do so, I highly recommend it. And all of the little stone beehive huts that were built back in this very exposed, rugged rock still stand today. And it really is a truly inspiring place. So I made a whole collection of work based on the islands off the west coast, because I really am fascinated by them. And the Skellig is one of those islands that's very, very special and important to me. On the right is a piece called Stepping Stones, and this is from a collection called Summer at Nana's. And in case you haven't guessed, Summer at Nana's is all about the summer times I spent as a child in my grandmother's house in West Cork. So I grew up in Dublin, and as a child going to West Cork, it was absolutely brilliant to be able to have all the freedom that we had when we got down there. So we could go outside early in the morning and be gone all day and not come back till dinner, and there was never any issue and there was never any worries about that. And we just had the freedom to roam through the fields and be completely immersed in nature. And it really was a wonderful experience to have as a child. So I made a collection of work based on those experiences and those memories that I had of a child, just playing around with my family and with my cousins. It was great fun, really. Okay. So during that time as well, while I was down in Beara in my little lace studio on the side of a mountain in a very rural area, I also made this piece. It's called Deserted Cottage, and it's based on Dursey Island, which is a small island off the southwest coast of Cork. And it's only accessible by cable car. And I think last check, the population of Dursey was 2 people. It's a pretty amazing place as well. And when you get out there, you can see all of the ruins of the previous generations, all of the ruins of the houses of the previous generations that lived there. So it really is an example of how small communities, rural island communities, and just rural communities in general have been ravished by emigration over the years. But Deserted Cottage, if you look very much into the center of the needle lace piece, there's a small little white cottage, and that is the deserted cottage that I've depicted here. I also started to explore using my own needle lace stitches in this piece as well. So when you learn how to make needle lace, or any lace really, you're learning the stitches that are tried and tested. So with this piece, I decided to just experiment a little and practice my own and invent my own stitches as well. Now, I entered this piece in 2014 into the RDS craft competition, and that year I won 2 prizes for it. I won a National Craft Award for lace making, and I also won the Eleanor de la Branchardier Award, which is a prize specifically for lace makers in Ireland. So again, that was a great boost for me. The following year, I entered this piece called The Lost Sheep, and this piece was part of my farmyard collection, and I entered this into the RDS craft competition again, and I won the Traditional Lace Makers of Ireland Award. So again, it was a great honour for me to win the Traditional Lace Makers of Ireland Award, having only been making lace for 3 years at this point. And this piece was based on this little sheep that got lost from its flock and essentially took up residence in the space around my house. I'm not going to call it a garden because it really is just a wilderness. So for months and months, about 3 months, I'd say, I just spent my days looking at this sheep, and it moved me so much that I had to depict it in lace. Okay, so moving on. So from 2016 to 2019, I took up a full-time role with an organisation in Dublin as arts officer. And as a result of that, I had very little time to pursue or to continue my own practice and to make work. So I had to sit down and really think about what I could do while also having a full-time job. And I decided that what I could do while working full-time was attend as many lace events as I possibly could around the world, and also upskill as much as I possibly could. So do courses and learn new skills. So in 2018, the World Lace Congress took place in Bruges in Belgium, and I decided to attend. And I took a course in contemporary bobbin lace. And if you look at the screen on the right, that is one of the samples that I made during this course. So this particular course was focusing on not following any particular pattern with bobbin lace, but crisscrossing the threads back and forth, not using a lot of pins, and then structuring the threads in different ways so that the structures change each and every time. So it's virtually impossible to repeat the same thing again using this particular technique of bobbin lace. So Marina Reguera, who's the lady in the photo beside me on the right, also took this course. And Marina is a master of Hinahosa lace and bobbin lace in general, and also an absolutely wonderful teacher. So we became friends during this lace conference. And it was also really important for me to go to this conference because I met lots of people from all over the world. So I really became exposed to the international lace community, and I became aware of what was happening around the world. It was really great, I suppose, to get myself out of Ireland and to meet all of these people and to meet all of these other lace making communities. And everybody that I did meet on that trip, I'm still in touch with and still friends with. So that was a wonderful experience. So as well as meeting Marina, I also met a lady called Elena Carnegie-Laux, who is the co-founder of the Brooklyn Lace Guild, and a lady called Devon Thine, who at the time was curating a show called Lace Not Lace, which was about to open at the Hunterdon Art Museum in New Jersey. Now, I had heard about Lace Not Lace, and I had really wanted to go, but it seemed a bit impossible at the time because I was in Dublin and the show was happening in the US. However, after meeting all of these wonderful people at Bruges, we kind of hatched a plan that I would come to New York and give a talk at the Textile Arts Centre where the Brooklyn Lace Guild meet, and give a talk and demonstration on Irish lace. And we'd coincide that with the opening of Lace Not Lace. So a month after being in Bruges and a month after meeting these people, I was flying across the Atlantic, and I gave a small lecture on the history of Irish lace at the Textile Arts Centre, as well as a demonstration. So the image on the left there, you can just see all of the samples that I've laid out on the table, and I also have the various lace making samples in progress. So I was able to show people how to do various stitches. So all of those samples that you see on the table were also the samples that I used for my portfolio when I was graduating from the National College of Art in 2013. The image on the right is me at the opening of Lace Not Lace, and I'm standing in the middle of an artwork, Leva Jerger's piece. It's a life-size chariot made from bobbin lace. It's really stunning and really amazing. And it was really important for me to attend that exhibition because everything in that exhibition was made using bobbin lace and needle lace techniques. And at this point in 2018, I had been making lace for 6 years, and I had attended a few exhibitions in Ireland and in the UK that kind of purported to be about lace. And then when you'd go to see them, there was very little work within those exhibitions that were actually made using lace techniques. Lace Not Lace was not like that. Everything within the show was made using handmade lace techniques. So again, it was a really important exhibition to happen. And it was really important for me to see that and to see, I suppose, the extent of what people were doing, but also the mastery of what was being achieved by lace makers all over the world. Now, where are we? Oh, look, Philadelphia. So after my trip to New York in 2018, the following year in November, I was invited to take part in Straight Out of Ireland in Philadelphia. So here I am, the opening night of the show, and you can see my work just hanging on the wall behind me. I brought 9 pieces over with me, and they were all from the collections that I mentioned earlier, the woodland, the farmland, the island, and the summer at Nana's. So again, it was a great opportunity for me to come to Philadelphia and to share the story of Irish lace, and also to share with people how lace has progressed. So moving away from the idea that lace can only be used as a fashion fabric, or lace can only be used, you know, for interior design, but that lace is an art form and can be used to express ideas just like any other art form. So as well as exhibiting my work, I also did a presentation and a live demonstration of lace making and took part in a panel discussion throughout that whole weekend. So it was a very, very busy weekend, but also just a fabulous opportunity. So in 2019, when I went to Philadelphia, I had also at that point decided to give up my job with the organization I was working with, because I wanted to pursue a master's degree. So just as I went to Philadelphia, I had just returned to college at the same time to pursue my master's. And I was doing a master's in art and research collaboration. And I chose this particular master's because it's self-directed and you essentially choose your own study topic. And I wanted to study lace, and it kind of seemed like a really good way for me to be able to do that. So the master's I chose, it was a mixture of both academic and practical work. So since Philadelphia and since around October of 2019 up until now, I've been working towards that. And it's been great for me to be able to get back to full-time practice again and to start making new work. Now, of course, in March of this year, Ireland, like many of the countries around the world, went into lockdown. So in a way, at the beginning, I didn't really know what was going to happen with work, etc. And then I really just embraced the fact that I was at home in my studio all day and really got stuck into focusing on my work and making work, which again, I felt was a really good opportunity. So in June of 2020, so June just gone, I got a call from the National Gallery of Ireland. And the gallery had been closed for over 100 days as a result of the COVID pandemic. All public spaces were ordered to close. And they were reopening again at the end of July, and they wanted to mark the occasion of reopening with a new exhibition. So they asked me to be part of a 3-person exhibition. So what we're seeing on the screen now is the gallery in which my work was showed over the summer months at the National Gallery. And over on the left, we have the work of Emer Murphy and her small sculpture pieces on the floor. And we've got a drawing of hers on the back wall and on the left wall towards the back. And in the foreground on the right, we have 2 large-scale paintings by a great artist, Cian McLaughlin. And towards the back of the room on the right-hand side, there's 2 display cases, and that is my work. So for this exhibition, I submitted 2 pieces of artwork. So the first piece of artwork I submitted was a piece called Production Line. And I suppose my MA research is really exploring the social and economic value of the Irish lace industry. And I'm looking at that and the various different narratives that have emerged in relation to domestic activity, female labour, memory, and material culture. So I'm looking at lace and its relationship to all of these different aspects. So this piece, Production Line, it includes the lace pillow with the bobbins, and it includes a line of lace that's extending out from the pillow. And the particular lace that I'm making here is Headford lace, which is indigenous to County Galway, and it's a bobbin lace, obviously. So this artwork includes the actual pillow and the bobbins and the pins and the piece of lace. So it is in one sense a work in progress or a piece in progress because the lace is still attached to the pillow. But it was really important for me to show the viewer the process. And I think it is really important when you make lace to be able to show the process and demonstrate the process, because a lot of the times I don't think people fully get what exactly is involved in making lace. So production line obviously refers to the line of lace that extends from the pillow, but it's also an homage to the teams of women who would have been employed to work on, you know, large royal commissions or commissions for aristocracy back in the late 19th and early 20th century. And they literally would sit for hours on end on a production line making lace. And they could work for weeks or months or sometimes years on a piece, depending on the scale of the piece. So the title refers to the actual lace itself, but also kind of harks back to this time where there was teams of women working on a production line to make lace. And I think I just have a detail of it here. So again, the image on the left you would have seen earlier, it's just the bird's eye view of the pillow with the bobbins attached, the pins holding the threads in place, and you can see a small bit of the lace pattern as well. And if you move your eye directly to the right, you'll see the lace. And I suppose you can see as well the variety of different stitches that can be created by simply crossing bobbins back and forth and using pins to hold those threads in place. And just to give some idea of scale, that piece of lace itself is about 2 centimeters in width, okay? So, as well as production line, in the other display case in the gallery, I had a piece called Fragile Economies. So the view we're looking at here is going through one display case, and at the back you can see the other display case that had the piece production line in it. But in the foreground, what we see is a collection of broken eggshells. So Fragile Economies is made using 21 broken eggshells and handmade lace, which has been attached. So each shell has a piece of handmade lace attached, and each piece of lace was specifically designed to the broken contour of each shell. And so they were all made separately and all attached. And Fragile Economies, I suppose, is about I suppose it's a comment on how domestic activity often became very successful female enterprise, and lace making was one of those enterprises. So again, back in the late 19th and early 20th century, women would have been making lace at home, and it might have been something that was passed down from one generation to the next. But actually they turned it into a very successful enterprise, and they were able to earn quite a lot of money from it, to the point that many women were able to emigrate. Many women were able to buy land and educate their children using money that they earned from lace making. As well as lace making, poultry keeping was actually big business for women, and poultry keeping was big business for women right up until the 1970s. So I was really kind of interested in how these domestic activities, these things that women did on a daily basis and probably didn't spend too much time thinking about it, and yet they were able to be very entrepreneurial in their approach to it and turn them into successful businesses. So I think, oh no, I think we have one more slide. Yeah, this is just a detail. Oh, we'll go back. There's a bit of a delay. Okay, so this is just a detail of that work, Fragile Economies. And over on the right, we can just see the eggshell on by itself, with the lace attached, and over on the left, and then on the right we have 3 eggshells together. And this is all part of my MA work, which I'm due to finish in the middle of January. So I'm currently compiling all of this work together and trying to figure out exactly how the work can be displayed, and looking at potentially displaying each eggshell as a separate piece of artwork, or maybe having, you know, smaller groups of eggshells, or in the large cluster like the way it was displayed at the National Gallery. So these are all issues that I will have to resolve over the next couple of months before I hand in my final assessment in mid-January. And as you can see, well, hopefully you can see the variety of different stitches that were used in each section of the handmade lace, which was made, of course, to reflect the broken contour, which was designed to reflect the broken contour of the eggshell. So that pretty much brings me up to right now and where I am with my work. And I just want to say a huge thank you to everybody for joining in and for listening, and again to the Irish Diaspora Centre for inviting me to speak. I always love talking about Irish lace, so it's great that people are interested. And if anybody has any questions, I would be more than happy to answer them for you. Okay, Gura míle maith agaibh.
So if you have a question, you can unmute yourself. Hopefully not everybody's talking over top of everybody else, but feel free to unmute yourself if you have a question. And Fiona, just thank you so much. That was absolutely wonderful. I love your work. So
Great,
I think Christine had a question.
Yeah, that was fascinating, Fiona. It really was. How easy or difficult was it to attach your lace to the eggshells? How did you actually do that?
Yes, I actually used a very specialized non-toxic fabric glue, and it took me a while to find it. I had to test it out, and it is incredibly difficult, Christine. I had loads of accidents. Many times I dropped a shell, and once the shell dropped, you know, the lace couldn't fit around any other shell because it was designed specifically for that eggshell. So it's very delicate and I thought lace was the most fragile thing to work with. I was wrong. Eggshells are.
Yes, you had a lot of omelettes, I've no doubt.
Yeah.
I was also interested in your comments about making up your own stitches, because that's what I do with mine. I just do it freely, and I just love the way it just evolves, which it sounds like you do something similar. So thank you.
Thanks, Christine.
I think Colin had a question saying, could you give a brief technical description of the basic stitching element of lace making?
It would depend on what particular style of lace you were interested in. So I'll just talk about needle lace. It's made using a needle and thread, just a needle and thread, and it's like a detached buttonhole stitch if you're familiar with embroidery in any way. And it's basically just creating small little loops. And then the variety of the stitches depends on how much space is between the stitches and then the tension of those stitches. I find lace making very difficult to explain verbally. I always feel that you have to just show with your hands. I don't know if I answered your question, Colin, but if I can be any more clearer, just let me know. I'll try my best.
I see Denise has unmuted herself. Denise, did you have a question? No, how about who's next?
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, Fiona. Olivier here. I love your work, love your practice. I was just wondering, where do you see your work going from here onwards? What are your current interests?
Well, as I mentioned, I'm just about to finish my MA in mid-January. I try not to think too far ahead because sometimes that can get quite scary. So I generally just tend to focus on what's happening right now and what I need to do right now. So right now, my MA will finish in mid-January, so I'm working towards that. I'm also going to be delivering a couple of online needle lace courses, so I'm going to be working towards that. And I'm also partaking in an event called Doily Free Zone, which it normally takes place in Italy. It's a very large lace symposium, and it has lectures and exhibitions and courses and all sorts. Because of COVID, it's going to happen online this year in June 2021. So once I finish the MA in January, I'll really be focusing on getting my work ready to present at that in June 2021. I'd also love to have a solo exhibition in Dublin or somewhere in Ireland.
And I'm following your work anyway, and I would continue to do so.
Thank you.
Thanks for the brilliant presentation, by the way. It was brilliant.
Oh, thank you, Olivier. Thank you.
Thanks.
I just want to say, not a question, but just congratulations, Fiona. Your work is fantastic, and that was a lovely presentation.
Thanks,
and the work in the National Gallery, really stunning.
Oh, did you get to see it?
I didn't, no,
Yeah.
but just I looked at it online, and I was hugely impressed.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, best of luck with the masters and with whatever you do after that.
Yeah, I'll be looking forward to it finishing. Only another couple of months, so yeah.
Okay, well done.
Thanks, Pauline.
Okay.
Anyone else have questions?
Can I just comment about the project you curated as well, the Headford Lace project? If anybody is interested in finding out more about contemporary lace. There's a Facebook page, isn't there? It was a fascinating exhibition of contemporary lace from all over the world, but focusing in Headford in Ireland.
That's right, Christine. Yeah, it was an exhibition that I curated quite recently with a group called the Headford Lace Project, where there was 34 artists from all over the world exhibiting in the shop windows of the town. So if anybody does want to see it or learn more about it, they can go to the headfordlaceproject.ie. And there's also a video walkthrough. We made a video walkthrough of the show, and you can also purchase a catalogue through the website for €5. So yeah, if anybody is interested in that, please log on to headfordlace.ie.
Can you put that into the chat so that people can see it spelled out?
I will, yeah, no problem.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Well, I just want to say thank you to Fiona for a fantastic presentation. We love having you come back and talk to us, and we hope to continue our relationship with you from the IDC. So next week, I've just realized that my video wasn't on, sorry. Next week, next week, the 30th. If you log into our Facebook page, we have Tom Meskel, who is doing a Facebook presentation on his work. He makes beautiful lanterns, and so he'll be doing a presentation next Monday on the 30th. So take a look at our Facebook page and you'll see that posted under our events. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much for joining us.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.